Major production funding for Game Notes is provided by Southern University and A&M College.
You have what it takes to begin your journey. Curiosity, ingenuity, intellect, determination. Through a vast portfolio of affordable and in-demand academic programs, hundreds of student-focused activities, and wraparound services, Southern University meets you where you are, giving you the tools and support that lead you to a successful career in the sciences or the arts. Begin with your goals anywhere. Finish stronger at Southern University at subr.edu.
And the Hargrove Foundation, with additional support from Lafayette Travel, the LSU Alumni Association, and the Cook Hotel and Conference Center at LSU, Louisiana Tech University, Natchitoches Regional Medical Center, Red Stick Sports, the U.S. Army Baton Rouge Recruiting Battalion, the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Victor Howell, and it is indeed a pleasure to welcome you to Game Notes. It's a new era here at LPB as we celebrate our 50th birthday this year. We are taking a deep dive into sports coverage on LPB. We've had the pleasure of bringing you the induction ceremonies from the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame over the summer from Natchitoches, and now we kick off a football season here on Game Notes, where we promise to bring you the best in coverage of 11 schools from around the state. No matter where you went to school, whether you're a Jaguar, a Tiger, a Bulldog, we plan on having you covered here on Game Notes. Take a look at the coverage from the I-20 route in North Louisiana, all across the I-10 route, and of course stopping at Northwestern State on I-49, and then down south with Tulane, Nicholls, and Southeastern on the North Shore. We have the coverage for you, and we look forward to doing it all season long, pregame and postgame, here on Game Notes. But you know, I can't do things by myself here with football, so it's my pleasure to introduce you to my analyst and broadcast partner. He played his college career at the University of Nebraska. He entered the NFL through St. Louis with a pit stop in Dallas before he made his way to New Orleans and played the rest of his career as a New Orleans Saint. And of course, with Sean Payton, Drew Brees and company, he won the Super Bowl with the Saints, called it a career, and he and I have had the pleasure of working together now for about 10 years, covering the Saints and now covering college football. Let me introduce you to my partner, Scott Shanley, who will be joining us here on Game Notes to cover football here in Louisiana and on LPB. It's great to see you, sir. How are you?
Yeah,
welcome to Game Notes.
Absolutely. Huh? I love it. I love it. Anytime we're talking football, it's a good time, Vic.
Always going to be a good time. And, you know, and you've seen it because you've played at the highest level. The talent and the level of talent at the college football level here in Louisiana. So many people want athletes here because there's so many stories to tell.
There are tons of stories. You can go down the long list of legends that have come out of this state when in terms of football, whether it's the high school level, the college level, the NFL. They have all three levels of football here in the state of Louisiana, and just the legends. And I'm excited to be a part of it, cover some of these guys, cover some of the programs, shed a light on all the hard work that's being shed out throughout the state. Guys getting up early, lifting weights, guys going to class, coaches spending long hours overnight in the office, getting ready to prepare for games. So I'm excited to cover it.
They've all been doing it in fall camp. They're about ready to kick off the season, which is why we are so excited to kick off Game Notes here on LPB. Coming up on this season preview edition of Game Notes, a lot to talk about with the stories. Let's start in Baton Rouge with the high expectations for LSU in the fourth season of the Brian Kelly era. Do the Tigers have a path to the playoffs? We'll talk about that. In Ruston, the Bulldogs from Louisiana Tech are saying goodbye to Conference USA and hello to a new conference, which is actually their old conference. And we have two new head coaches debuting this season, and one is a very familiar face in a very familiar place. Some of the stories we will cover here in the next 60 minutes on Game Notes. So let's get things started. And while the season is about to kick off, let's actually focus on the postseason for a moment. No, not in Baton Rouge. Let's go off of Claiborne Avenue down in New Orleans and focus on the Tulane Green Wave as we kick off things here on Game Notes. It's the second season for John Sumrall. He went 23-4 in 2 seasons at Troy, 9-5 last year with the Tulane Green Wave, who made it to the championship game of the American Conference before they lost to Army. This year, there are a lot of expectations for the Green Wave, and Sumrall knows he has a lot of new faces in a lot of new places.
A very new team. Returning starters on offense, we have 2. Okay, so that's a little bit daunting. Defensively, we're way more experienced. We've got 3 returning starters. Okay, so like much more stable situation on that side of the ball.
Okay, I love the way he deadpanned that. Yeah, we got much more because of 3. But, Scott, look at this, though. From ESPN's playoff predictor, when you talk about teams out of the power conferences, behind Boise State is Tulane with almost a 25% chance of making it into the playoffs with the fact that they have 5 total returning starters. That says a lot about how the culture has changed down in New Orleans.
Absolutely. That graphic says a lot. I think every coach and every player wants to go from we need to prove people wrong to prove people right. And this program has gotten themselves, after that USC win a couple years ago, they are now trying to prove people right when it comes to playoff talk. Expectations, they're high. Everybody wants expectations. So to your point, the culture. Coach, listen to Coach Stonewall talk. I feel like playing. Listen to that bass in his voice and listen to him talk. He talks with a presence. He commands a group, a locker room. So I think he has no problem instilling his culture because of the respect they have for him, and his track record speaks for itself.
Yeah, let me give you some numbers here. From 1999 to 2021, Tulane averaged 4 wins a season, and in 21 they went 2-10. In the last 3 years, Tulane has won 32 games, and they've made 4 straight American Conference championships. Now, they fell short last year against Army, but to your point, now it has all shifted where, hey, let's hope we win 5 wins. Now they don't want to get 2 losses, and they've been consistently getting to the championship in their conference.
Yeah, well, what they've done well is they've recruited well, but they're doing the little things well. They're playing good run defense. They're running the football. They're controlling the line of scrimmage. And I think that's where the biggest difference in the Tulane football program has been the last 3 years. They're able to line up against most teams in the country and play at the line of scrimmage. That's where games are won and lost on Saturdays.
They had the number 2 scoring offense in the American 1 year ago, the number 2 overall defense in the conference, and that was only behind Army in the rankings there. Another thing that Summerall has done well, he lost 8 starters to the portal, and that is not going away, right, in college football. So you know what he did? He went out and got 20. Now, he lost 8 good ones, but he got 20, and all of them have experience. So it's not like he got a lot of rookies in that class. You replace talent with talent. Now you just got to get them in the system.
Yeah, and that's the nature of the game. Some people like the new nature of the game with college football. Some people don't. But I'll tell you this. It gives you an opportunity when you do lose players to go and put yourself – when Coach Summerall goes out there in the portal, there's tons of players all across the country who may be second or third string on the depth chart who want to go to Tulane and play. Or maybe they've fallen out of favor at the other program they've been at. So I think it says a lot when you can go out and get that number of players in the portal. It speaks volumes about where you are as a program and who wants to play for you.
As you heard Coach say, he has 2 returners on offense, 3 on defense in terms of starters. So you know he will be looking to see who is going to emerge as a leader. That's going to be one of the big things to develop this Green Wave team.
One of my least favorite things I ever hear people say is like, we don't have enough leaders. Well, that's our job as coaches, is to develop guys to be leaders. And so that's an incumbent upon us to do so. And I say it every day probably. I think good teams can be coach-led, but great teams, like championship caliber teams, have to be player-led. And I'm confident in the group we got. I like our locker room. I like the makeup of our leadership group, and I look forward to watching them lead our team this year.
And, of course, you're used to teams seeing a leader come from the quarterback position. It's a very interesting battle, Scott. There are 4 players down there now battling for the starting role as their starting quarterback did go to the portal and left for another school. What makes it interesting is that one of those players, Brendan Sullivan, who was expected to be one of the leaders, well, he's battling an ankle injury right now, so they're looking elsewhere, and it could be Jake Retzlaff.
Yeah, Jake Retzlaff came from BYU, but I think the other thing that you like in this quarterback battle, everybody likes to have familiarity, but I think when you have redshirt senior, you have guys who have played a lot of football. So you're choosing between, you're letting this battle play out with guys who have a ton of experience. That always makes you feel comfortable going to sleep at night as a coach.
Retzlaff threw for almost 3,000 yards at BYU and 20 touchdowns. And after their latest scrimmage, here was the talk about the quarterback play.
Every player has different strengths and weaknesses. So what we cater around whoever the quarterback is may look a little different, depending on if they're needed in the game plan. And so Jake is at a place where he could do enough of what we've had in for a while. It's starting to slow down a little bit for him.
It felt good to get out there and do that scrimmage type deal. It's fun to run through the motions, and so game day is not the first time. It's good to get used to all that stuff and where I'm going to be on game today, what part of the field and all that stuff. It was fun.
Retzlaff was late to the game in terms of getting to Tulane's campus, but he is now right in the middle of that battle. As you take a look at Tulane's schedule, well, they'll open up with Northwestern. You've got South Alabama, and that Duke game will be interesting because their quarterback that used to be at Tulane is now at Duke. Then they have that big one, September 20th. That'll be against a ranked Ole Miss team. That'll be quite the challenge for the Wave.
Yeah, every coach, every player kind of goes through the schedule when they get it, and fan base. You kind of look for those measuring stick games. You get down, South Alabama's a good team week 2. You go to Duke, Ole Miss. Those are type measuring stick games early in the season where you're trying to see where your program is.
Take a look on the right side of your screen at UTSA and at Memphis within about a 9-day schedule against 2 of the top teams in the American, not named Tulane. Tulane will face both of them and face them on the road. So if they can survive that early storm, they can make their way. But those are two back-to-back road games that'll be very tough.
It's really important for any program to start fast, especially a program that we just talked about. The number of new guys on the team. You have a new quarterback. You've lost a ton of guys to the portal. You need to start fast. That's where you galvanize the team. That's where the team chemistry comes from. Winning early creates a lot of wins late in the season as well.
From New Orleans, we go down west, down I-10. Let's make a stop in Lafayette and focus on the Raging Cajuns from the University of Louisiana. You talk about expectations. There are expectations there to see them be very successful and win in the Sun Belt Conference West. Can they get that done? Well, their coach is talking about picking up the pieces from last year and getting off to a solid start in 2025.
I think after a year like last year, when you come up a little bit short, it does one of two things. I think it either develops a sense of complacency, you know, saying, hey, we almost got there, worked really hard, and it's just kind of what we are. Or it drives you to do more, drives you to work harder and relentlessly pursue what you really want. I'm proud of last year, but we're not there yet. And that's the first thing I told this team in January. There's more work to do. We're confident and we're excited about 2025, but there's more work to do.
Well, what about that work and what needs to be done? Well, when you take a look at the divisions, in the West Division, Louisiana is picked to win it in the Sun Belt Conference for 2025. James Madison on the eastern side picked to win that one. You see Texas State, they're about to say goodbye to the Sun Belt Conference. They are picked second in that Western Division. But you heard Michael Decimo talk, Scott, about picking up the pieces, being satisfied, being happy, but not satisfied. What he's talking about there is they went 10-4 last year. They finished 7-1 in the conference. The only loss was to South Alabama. But then they had Marshall in the Sun Belt Conference Championship, got blown out 31-3. Then went to a bowl game, lost to TCU 34-3. So 3 straight bowl losses. They're getting there, but now it's ready to take that next step that they want to do that they fell short 1 year ago.
Sure, you always want to win those bowl games because they jump you into the next season. They jump you into that spring ball with a fresh feeling and looking forward to the next season. But I think the impressive thing to me is you were 6-7, then you were 6-7, then you were 10-4. You showed a huge jump, a huge jump in your growth as a program. And I think just like we talked about Tulane, expectations are sky high because you've seen that growth in year 3 under this coach.
Yeah, and you talked about those back-to-back 6 and 7 seasons. Remember, that's when Billy Napier, who had all the success at Louisiana, thought he might be going to LSU. Instead, went to Gainesville. He's now the head coach at Florida. Decimo takes over, and now coming off a 10-4 season, looking to build on that even more. An interesting situation there for their leadership. So many teams. There's one team in Louisiana that has a quarterback coming back. We're going to talk about them in a moment. But so many schools are looking for new quarterbacks, and that's also the situation in Lafayette for the Raging Cajuns. Their quarterback, in a way, Scott, full circle. Yep. His name is Walker Howard, and he was highly recruited out of Lafayette High School at St. Thomas More. Went to LSU. Well, they had a guy named Jaden Daniels, and then they got a Nussmeier kid, right? Tough to play. So he went to Ole Miss. Didn't work out there. Well, now Walker Howard is back at home in Lafayette, and looks like he might take over as a starting quarterback. And look who he might be throwing to, a former LSU teammate in Shelton Sampson. That's quite the 1-2 punch for guys who didn't have it work out in Baton Rouge, so they went an hour west, and now they have a chance to shine for the Cajuns.
It's a cool story, seeing Walker Howard go back close to home, getting to play in front of friends and family like that, being right there, and then having this wide receiver connection. There is something to be said about the chemistry that develops between a wide receiver and a quarterback, things that you just can't replicate time on task throughout practice. Just having that experience, whether it was at LSU, wherever it was previously to that chemistry and timing that a quarterback and a wide receiver can develop, if those two can develop that'll be huge for the Raging Cajuns.
They also have coming back in the backfield quite the 1-2 punch. Bill Davis, who had almost 800 yards last year and 9 touchdowns, and Zylan Perry, just under 700 yards last year, about 6 yards a carry. So for Walker Howard or whoever takes over at quarterback, if it is Howard being new to the program and getting in, it's always nice to be able to hand it off to some experience, and you got 2 of them back there.
Yes, absolutely. A quarterback's favorite person on the field, besides the offensive line, is a running back. You get that running game going, now you can play action pass, you bring up those defenders out of the secondary, and now you can throw those balls over the top of the defense. But I think the running game will be pivotal for this team to set up when you're breaking in a new quarterback. You've lost a lot of receivers as well. That running game needs to get going early to give your offense some confidence.
And on the defensive side of the ball, they were second in the Sun Belt Conference. They struggled a little bit against the run, but they've got some experience coming back on that defensive front as well for the Cajuns. We'll see how they can get things done. Let's take a look at the schedule for Louisiana Raging Cajuns and see they'll open up with Rice. Then they've got an in-state game with McNeese before they go to the SEC, and they will take on Missouri on the road. Then they will get into the meat of the schedule, if you will. You see Texas State, who's picked right behind them in the West. They will be at home against them, but they will be on the road at South Alabama, the team that beat them 1 year ago. But you can see with the schedule and the players back, if they get that quarterback situation settled, a lot of expectations for another year of success for the Raging Cajuns in the Sun Belt Conference.
Blake Baker is in my opinion, elite in the field of defensive coordinators. We needed to give him some more tools. And I know that we have not played the kind of defense necessary to win a national championship. I think we put a roster together in this offseason, along with young players that have taken lumps along the way as they've developed, and given Blake now the tools to play championship level defense.
That, of course, is LSU head coach Brian Kelly, and you hear his concern and his focus on getting the Tigers' defense more improved for 2025. And here's why he was focusing on that. Total defense, 11th. How about 14th in yards allowed per play, almost 6 yards per play. Do the simple math, 2 plays, you've already got a first down if you're the opponent. 14th in scoring defense, on and on. You see the numbers, last in rushing touchdowns allowed, and you see interceptions. So you need to take the ball away. They didn't do it very well. You need to stop the run. They didn't do that very well. So, Scott, you can see why Brian Kelly is opening up and putting his focus on the fact that this defense, if you're going to run the SEC gauntlet, and we know it is, and we'll talk about that in a moment, that defense has to improve for the Tigers in 2025.
Yeah, everybody talks about offense in college football, and it's fun to watch. It's extremely fun to watch and put up the numbers, but you need to play solid defense, especially in the SEC conference. Week in and week out, it's a gauntlet from week one till the end of the season. So I think the one thing about looking at that graphic for me is it's about stopping the football, yes, and preventing points, but taking the football away. Not enough produced turnovers, not enough ball disruption defensively to get that ball back to your offensive side of the guys and get it back to your playmaker at quarterback.
You heard him say there that they've got defensive players coming back that took their lumps. How much can that be a positive this year? Because you're going to take lumps.
Yeah.
But he talked about how they took a lot, but now they're back. How can those lumps help this defense this year?
Yeah, as a player, you're looking to grow. Every offseason, you're going in and you're trying to say, what can I improve? Whether it's watching more film, whether it's getting bigger, faster, stronger in the weight room, whether taking care of your body nutritionally and eating right. So I think when you go through those lumps and you don't have the success that you want to as a team and as an individual, it gives you that off-season motivational power to go through and say, I can be a better version of myself.
There's one lump that this defense did not have to take because there's one player that had the chance to leave and he opted to come back. And he might single-handedly change the way teams play on the other side of the ball. His name is Harold Perkins. He had the opportunity of going to the NFL. Tiger fans will remember he was injured a year ago. It was the day game that everybody talks about against UCLA, and they lost Harold Perkins for the season. But Harold Perkins has decided to come back to Baton Rouge, Scott. And what does that mean for this defense? Because it seems no matter where he's lined up, he's a problem.
It's a game changer. And you heard Coach Kelly talk about more tools in the toolbox. Having this guy on the field will fix a lot of problems. It'll take the football away a lot, but what he really does, and I'm glad they finally tried to figure out where they wanted to play. We've seen him play off the ball some. His first year, he was on the ball. This guy is dynamic when he's near the line of scrimmage. Offensive linemen do not want to see this guy line up towards them. He's one of the best pass rushers. He's got a lot of Micah Parsons in him from the Dallas Cowboys. He's that type of athlete, and he's a game changer. He keeps offensive coordinators up at night, knowing how to protect wherever he's lined up.
Here's what Kelly had to say about Perkins back for one more year in Baton Rouge.
He made that choice. We didn't make it for him. We gave him the data and the information, and he looked through it and made the best decision for him, and he felt like it was to come back. Now, you don't come back unless you have the expectations that you're going to be a dominant player. He's got the ability to do so.
He's the best athlete I've probably ever seen in my whole life. So if you let Harold be Harold, he'll be a superstar, and it's not going to be hard for him to be a superstar.
And Whit Weeks is going along that same train. He's been banged up a little bit in camp, but should be ready to go when the season starts. And you take a look at the preseason poll in the Southeastern Conference, and you see where LSU sits behind Texas, who they will not face this season, Georgia, who they will not face. They will face Alabama, and then LSU comes in fourth. So we talk about the expectations, and now that mega conference, Scott, when you see 16 teams, LSU would like to be a little higher. Tiger fans would like to see them a little higher, but they know they can get there if they can take care of business. But there's the gauntlet. Look at all the ranked teams in this column.
That is a gauntlet. The one thing, I almost think this LSU team is flying under the radar just a little bit. And that's crazy to say because LSU hardly ever flies under the radar. I think they're flying under the radar because of the quarterback situation. They have one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the country. We just saw Harold Perkins. Whit Weeks said Harold was one of the best athletes he's ever seen. I think Whit Weeks is one of the most outstanding linebackers in college football. So those two together on the defense side, I think the defense is going to be much better. And it's going to come down to the offense. Can they run the ball consistently enough so that Nussmeier doesn't have to do all the work himself?
Well, and let's focus on that topic a little more because Baton Rouge had a scare a couple of weeks ago in fall camp. It was erroneously reported that Nussmeier was down with an ACL injury, and everybody stopped breathing if you're an LSU fan. No, don't tell me that. But remember, in his second year, Joe Burrow, Heisman Trophy winner, right? Second year, Jay Daniels, Heisman Trophy. Nussmeier's going to his second year. He doesn't want those accolades. He said, look, don't compare me to them. I want to be me. But here's the fact. Second year, he's the most experienced quarterback, one of the best, like you said, in the country, and maybe he can be enough to guide that offense to the success that they want to have.
Yeah, this season's certainly going to rely on his arm and his leadership abilities, and he'll take some chances. He'll do that a little bit like Brett Favre, Tony Romo, those guys, but he makes a lot of plays because he's willing to take those chances. I think the guys around him elevate their level of play because of the confidence and the swagger that he plays with. So it's all about staying healthy, keeping him clean, putting together a good running game so that teams just can't tee off on him in the pass game.
Aaron Anderson might be the next wide receiver standout, as many have come through LSU, and he might be the go-to guy for Nussmeier, who is ready to take charge and use the experience, according to Brian Kelly, to get the job done.
Now, I would tell you that experience is going to be his best teacher in the SEC. Having obviously played a year in the SEC and has seen what needs to happen on a consistent basis is most important, but he brings that individual trait that coaches love because he wants to be taught. He wants to be coached. He wants to be coached hard.
You know, there's no hiding from the turnovers, you know, and I think it's more of an understanding of, you know, the way I am as a player, as an anticipation passer. You know, there's going to be some interceptions. The ones that I need to eliminate are the ones that don't need to happen, the ones where I'm trying to do too much, the ones where I'm trying to make a play when I don't need to.
He took a big step being a leader, like more of a vocal leader, leading, like not just leading the offense, but leading the whole team. And the sky's the limit for him. Like, he can do whatever he want to do as long as he continues to put the work in.
You know, you've got Anderson healthy, you get Chris Hilton. There's a lot of weapons that Nussmeier will have. But take a look at this, Scott, setting the high bar. Nussmeier in his first year. So this is quarterbacks in their first year. Look at what he did in his first year in the rankings. First across the board. Now you got to come back and try to top that. If he gets the support, he might be able to. But what this tells you is he has the skills to get it done.
He absolutely has the skills. You see year one in the SEC to put up those type of numbers, and a lot was put on him in year one. I think that's why if you can give some help around him, it'll only improve his game. It's about, you heard him say, just take care of the football. Don't make those too aggressive plays. That's what makes him a great player, though. And I think guys around him, you heard Chris Hilton talk about him. The first year as a player, when you're starting, you're just trying to prove to everybody, I can do this. I can play. I can help you guys win games. Year two as a quarterback, you're becoming a leader. You're trying to help elevate everyone else's game. And I think that's the role he's in this year, because he can play. He's going to play on Sundays, but now it's about raising the elevation, or elevating the play of the guys around him.
And as you talked about earlier, try to get that good running game. Brian Kelly and his staff got the #1 recruiting class out of the portal. That's the new era we talked about already in college football. But you get those new guys, if you can get them together in this system, the talent is there, the expectations are there. Is this an LSU team that will be waiting for a bowl game in December, or is this an LSU team you think is going to be playing in the playoffs in December?
Personally, I think I would be shocked if this team is not in the playoffs. And every year you talk about injuries. If this team can stay relatively healthy, injury-free, the defense, I think, is going to be much improved. Again, you have one of the top quarterbacks in the country. It's constantly mentioned, Arch Manning, Nussmeier, and Clay Klubnik out of Clemson. Those are the three guys that everybody talks about. You have that guy. A lot of teams are searching for that guy. And because of that, I think this team will be in the college football playoff.
Oh, you mentioned the quarterback at Clemson. They're going to see them in the first game. In fact, that's where they'll kick off on the road in Clemson. Quite a quarterback battle between the two. But look at this. Before the end of September, you're on the road at a ranked Clemson team, you're home against a ranked Florida team, and then you're on the road at Ole Miss before you get out of the month of September. So you can't afford to stub your toe early. Quite the challenges before you get to that first bye week there in early October. But the stage is set, the talent is there. Now we'll just wait and see if the Tigers can get it done.
On behalf of the Sun Belt presidents, the chancellors, the directors of athletics, I would like to officially announce that Louisiana Tech has accepted our offer to join the Sun Belt Conference.
And that was the big announcement this summer up in Ruston, where Louisiana Tech is going back home, saying goodbye to Conference USA and hello once again to the Sun Belt Conference. With Texas State leaving the Sun Belt Conference, they officially extended the invitation, and Louisiana Tech accepted it. And that means it gets much more regional for Louisiana Tech and returns to a conference where they used to play and compete and have a lot of success. Louisiana Tech President Dr. Jim Henderson talked about what this now means for their program and for Bulldog fans.
This is one of those moments in an institution's history, and this is not hyperbole, I don't think, that we'll look back on 10 years from now as a watershed moment, not just for Louisiana Tech, but for the Sun Belt Conference, for the state of Louisiana, for the regional economy, I dare say for collegiate athletics as a whole, because regionality and renewing rivalries is where we should all be focused.
Well, Scott, to Dr. Henderson's point, You take a look at their opponents on the left side, which will be the new Western Conference in the Sun Belt, the Western Division, and look at the distance now. 30 minutes down I-20 to UL Monroe. You only have to drive 2.5 hours basically to Lafayette. The longest drive will be to Troy. Compare that to right now in Conference USA, they're playing New Mexico State, and they have to play UTEP. You're in Texas, you know that's a day and a half travel just to get over there, right? But to his point, this brings them much closer with those rivalries. Look, I know you played in Nebraska, and I remember back in the day, it was Nebraska-OU, and it was Nebraska-Colorado. They've tried to force other opponents, let's say LSU by itself. They want it to be Texas A&M, or they want it to be Arkansas, and we know it's developed as Alabama. But you see these teams, there are some naturally, geographically built-in rivalries that now the fans can get behind and the players can get behind, that builds a new emotion and a new focus on the field.
And that's abnormal with all the conference realignments that have been going on. You see teams getting farther away from their rivals, and now you get to be put right in the middle of everything. And seeing that list, there's no shortage of rivalries that can sprout out of that when you have that many teams, 5-6 teams right down the road, and you're playing them year in and year out. So I think when you look at it, it just seems like a natural fit, a good fit for Louisiana Tech and where they are with their program and the rivalries that can come from it.
Yeah, they've had 5 straight losing seasons, but things have been on the turnaround, getting there with Sonny Cumbie as head coach. 5 losses last year by less than 7 points, which tells you you're right there in the mix. Now they've got to find a way to get over the top and get a couple of those L's into the other column.
Yeah, and they've done some good things. They had the #1 ranked defense last year in Conference USA. So those Conference USA opponents will be glad to see that Bulldog defense lead the conference. But it's about putting together, like we said before, a running game will help your defense. Putting together a good offensive line to protect your quarterback, returning quarterback in Evan Bullock, who's an outstanding player, getting receivers around him and getting this offense going to help that defense.
When you look at what Louisiana Tech, we told you Tulane earlier about that power index. Well, Conference USA did not do a preseason poll, so to speak, but they did a bowl percentage of teams that they have a chance will get to the postseason and out of the conference. Well, Liberty, it leads the way right there with Western Kentucky, but look, Louisiana Tech, they're basically saying we've got 4 teams that we think are going to make a good shot, and Louisiana Tech at 75% is right there with the top 4 teams telling you what they think about the experience and what Sonny Cumbie is doing up there in Ruston for them to have a successful season and have a chance to go bowling this year.
Yeah, you said it right there. I think to me the reason those odds are what they are is because there's a lot of belief in their head coach. Sonny Cumbie was an outstanding player in college football. He's been a really good head coach. He's made some stops at some big-time programs. I think there's a lot of faith in him to take this program where they want to go. Returning quarterback I talked about earlier in Evan Bullock. Last year as a freshman, just stepped out of high school onto campus and played really well as a true freshman. So I think there's a lot of expectations because you do have those 2 things in place. You have a really good head coach and you have a really good quarterback.
Despite the losing season 1 year ago, they did have the chance to go bowling. You remember it was one of those quirks of the bowl situation. Who qualifies automatically? Who has an opening? Well, the Independence Bowl needed a team to face Army. Remember we told you earlier, Army got past Tulane. They went to the Independence Bowl. Well, they needed a team. They went down the street. Now, Louisiana Tech didn't have a full period to practice and get ready, and yes, they lost to Army. But they had a chance to go bowling. They did get some of those extra practices, especially with new offensive coordinator Tony Franklin and now installing his offense. And head coach Sonny Cumbie talked about what that experience, despite the loss, meant to his Bulldog team.
We wanted our kids to have that experience because, to be quite honest, there was one player on the team that had been to the Independence Bowl previously whenever they played Miami, and that was it. And then they had been to a bowl game. And so now for our players to see what they have been missing just from that experience that the Independence Bowl presented our team, just really when you think about team building, that's what those 3 days were. When that game was finished, despite the result, our players had an unbelievable bowl experience, and they want to get back to another one.
I think it's a great point. You had one player that had been bowling. Now you've got a whole squad that went bowling. Forget about the win or the loss. It's bonus football. You had a chance to practice and experience what it's like to get there as you now take a look at their schedule. And Louisiana Tech will open back-to-back state opponents at home against the Lions from Southeastern, where Frank Selfo will bring his team up to Ruston. Then they go to Baton Rouge for quite the battle with LSU. And then you'll see once they get past a couple of the other opposite games on the right side of your screen, you'll see the rest of what they will face. We saw Liberty and the percentages they have, what they will face now for the rest of their schedule in the CUSA.
Yeah, I think the one thing about that schedule is obviously go on the road to LSU in week 2, but 3 of the first 4 games are at home. You have a chance to win some games at home, get your crowd behind you, get some momentum behind you. And like I said before, when you can win those games early on in the season, it snowballs into confidence. And players become something they never thought they could become when it comes to winning and that winning feeling. And once you experience it, especially early in the season, you don't want to experience anything less.
Speaking of experience early in the season, we'll go 30 minutes east on I-20, and let's go to Monroe for the Warhawks at UL-Monroe, who 1 year ago, under head coach Brian Vincent in his first season, started 5-1, one of the best starts they've seen in years. Didn't finish the way they wanted to and finished the season 5-7, but they came out exploding, and it was an experience that he hopes will carry over into year 2. Here's head coach Brian Vincent.
This is the 8th program that I've been a part of rebuilding. The whole key is to keep your team together, to keep those guys in that locker room together. We never had negativity. We never pointed fingers. Everything within that program falls on my shoulders, and I accept that. But what we did is we had the highest retention in the Sun Belt, and that's something that I'm very proud of. I'm proud of our staff. I'm proud of our town. I'm proud of our fans, because everybody plays a role in that.
All right, so let's talk about that highest retention there, because, again, 5-1, you lost the last 6 games. Still, it was their best record since 2019. Now you've got the retention. You've got the players coming back that tasted that 5-1 start. What will that mean to a program when you're still trying to build, but you say, hey, we saw what could happen. Yeah. Now we got to fix the mistakes on the back end.
Yeah, I think you make your motto finish strong. It's easy. You always want to start fast, and we've talked about that already, but you want to finish strong. Can we do the right things day in and day out, even after you reach those dog days of the season where maybe things aren't going right? So I think after that point of having that success, can you get back? And that's where leadership, that's where your culture kind of takes over, and your players in the locker room say, even though we didn't win a game we thought we should have won, let's get right back and believe in our technique and our fundamentals.
And when you look at the Sun Belt Conference predictions, they're not predicted to finish very high. And actually, he says, I like that. I like where we are. And you might say, well, that sounds strange. We know why? Because you had a team that had that experience we just talked about from a year ago, the highest retention in the conference coming back, yet he still thinks everybody's sleeping on the Warhawks. So just pay attention to the mentality and what he's building there in year 2 with the Warhawks. And yes, he has a lot of guys coming back. However, Scott, we should focus on the one player who's not coming back, because it's a big one. And I mean, it was a lot of offense. His name is Ahmad Hardy. He was the running back for the Warhawks 1 year ago, and boy, was he productive. 1,350 yards, 13 touchdowns. Well, the portal got to him, and he's now a Missouri Tiger playing in the SEC. By the way, he has some of the best touchdown celebrations you're going to see in college football. Every one of them here is different. But the point is, he was a one-man wrecking crew. Now he's gone, so now it's going to be more of a team effort instead of always handing it off to one guy.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. It's tough to replace that kind of production. This guy's going to be playing on Sundays. You just look at, he's dynamic, he's explosive. So to lose a guy with that much production, 13 touchdowns, it's going to come from a total team, a group effort. So wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, you got to find ways to make up for this amount of production that you're going to lose, because he's an outstanding player, no doubt.
And that's one thing they've been talking about is the running back room and how they've been producing so far this season.
Coach Vincent, he said a lot of stuff that I kind of agree with, and I just feel like this is a perfect opportunity as a running back and somebody who wants to showcase their talents, and I just decided that ULM was the perfect spot. I'm very elusive, very agile, versatile. I can do pretty much anything that you ask me to do, and I just want to showcase that, be able to let everybody know that.
I like our room. This is going to be more of this won't be a one-man show kind of like it was last year, because we've got a lot of quality backs that can all play big roles in this season.
There you go, Scott, to your point about everybody contributing. And McReynolds came from South Alabama, so he's going Sun Belt to Sun Belt as he makes the transfer and looks to contribute here with UL-Monroe, who will open on the Thursday night against St. Francis before they go to Tuscaloosa. Big game against Alabama, number 8 in the country before the bye. And then you'll see their schedule as they get into conference play on the right side. They'll finish up back-to-back road games at Texas State and at Louisiana, which means you're going up against the number 2 and number 1 teams in the Western Conference to close out the year, and both of them are on the road.
Yeah, and I think the biggest key for this team, you talked about the offensive side of the ball, losing an outstanding running back, but defensively, they were the number 1 pass defense in their conference last year. It's about improving the run defense. If they can improve the run defense, that'll help everybody on this team.
All right, let's focus on the SWAC now. 2 teams in Louisiana in the SWAC, the Southern Jaguars and the Grambling Tigers. We'll get to Grambling in just a moment, but let's focus in on Baton Rouge and take a look at the predictions in the SWAC conference, because the Southern Jaguars, once again out of Baton Rouge over there on the bluff, picked to win it in the Western Division. Jackson State's picked to win it on the Eastern side, and you see Grambling down there picked 5th. Don't sleep on Grambling Tigers and Mickey Joseph. We're going to talk about them here in just a moment, but we can talk about what Southern has done, having won it a year ago, losing to Jackson State in the title game, picked to win it again this season. Terrence Graves is the head coach and talks about his longevity in the SWAC and success on the bluff.
I'm coaching the sons of of players that I coached. And this is my 31st year in the SWAC. And I've been coaching 33 years altogether. But I've been in the SWAC for 31 years. So it's been a blessing. It's been a great time to be able to see these young men grow up and become great fathers and great leaders, and now coaching their sons, and they're bringing their sons on campus, and they're telling them, this is my coach, and you playing for my coach, and things of that nature. It's a blessing. And so, I don't know if I'm, like you said, I don't know if I'm the most tenured, but I know I got to be one of the two.
Jaguar fans will hear a lot of the last names pronounced. You know their dads played, to Terrence Graves' point. Now he's coaching their boys. How about this young man, Kelby Givens, Scott? Preseason SWAC Defensive Player of the Year, reigning Defensive Player of the Year from a year ago, all SWAC first team. What's interesting is you see the highlights here. You'll see him line up on the right side. Now he's on the left side. Talk about what that means. We talked about Harold Perkins earlier, but this is a guy that can do it from any side, either end on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, this guy is going to see playing time on Sundays as well. When you have a player with this type of versatility, you can line up on the right side and left side. You make offensive linemen, you make offensive tackles and offense coordinators sweat because you have no control over where he lines up. They're going to pick the guy that they want him to pass rush against. And when you look down at these stats, 27.5 tackles for loss and 12 sacks. This guy is playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage and disrupting offenses.
Yeah, forced 3 fumbles. He led the FCS in tackles for loss with 27.5. You see his numbers there, and high expectations for what he will do on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, Southern lost more than 70% of their touchdowns scored a year ago, but they're going to be tough on the defensive side of the ball. We'll see what they can match up there on the offensive end. So from Southern picked to win the West, we go up on I-20 and talk about the Grambling Tigers. Again, they are picked finished 5th in the West. They are in the second year of head coach Mickey Joseph, who had quite a run as an assistant at LSU, previously an assistant at Grambling. Now he's calling the shots. And last week, I had a chance to catch up with him on campus and get a state of the program address with the head coach heading into year 2. Halfway through fall camp, year 2 for Mickey Joseph here at Grambling, and the head coach joins us here. Thanks for letting us in your office, Coach.
I appreciate y'all coming.
Absolutely. It's good to see you. Give us an evaluation, if you will. You're halfway through fall camp, season around the corner. How has the progress been?
Well, it's coming together. It's coming together. I think the kids really are focusing on what we're telling them, because we always say, give us your focus and finish. And I think they're trying to do that right now. We just got to be more consistent with them as a coaching staff. To get them to be consistent, we have to be consistent. I tell the coaches that all the time. But we have a good group of kids here. We have the kids that they're really tight. We have a really strong coaching staff here with a lot of experience. So it's coming together.
I saw you at Media Day for SWAC Media Days, and you talked about owning last year, evaluating, and now implementing the game plan for year 2. How has that implementation been going in terms of taking what happened last year and seeing the changes that are being made that you wanted to make?
Well, complementary football. We had to play complementary football this year. We got to know when to run the ball. We got to know when to throw it. We got to work together. And so that's what we're doing a better job of, just working together as an offensive staff. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody has their responsibility, and everybody's getting it done. But we're also going to make sure that we're doing what's best for the kids, that the kids can execute it. Because it's not what we know, it's what they can execute.
You had some big numbers when you were here at previous stop at Grambling. For those who followed you at LSU, you put up some big numbers offensively. Are you trying to get back to that same style of playing here at head coach in year 2 with those numbers?
Not really the numbers. I'm trying to get to the wins.
Okay.
Trying to get to the wins. So, and it might be a time on defense, that we give up some yards, and the offense got to outscore them. So our job this year, we always tell the team this: on offense, score 1 more point than your opponents, and on defense, let them score keep them at 1 less point.
Players that have stood out so far, maybe the people don't know that they expect to see from Grambling this year. Anybody stand out so far through camp?
Well, we have a good quarterback battle going on with T-Set and Fry, a kid from Jacksonville State and the transfer from Southern. So it's a really good quarterback battle going on. We're really enjoying it when watching them. And then at the running back position, we brought Trey Bradford back. We have Byron Eaton, Andre Cruz, Tony Phillips. The kids are just really playing really good, but the kid McClendon is doing a great job, running between the tackles. He's kind of 4th to 5th. People forget about him, but if he went anywhere else, he'd probably be a starter. So we're really young outside. So Tylen Williams is doing a real good job, And so my thing is to get Nick Howard just to be more consistent about what he wants to do, because he's the leader of the group. And when we get Nashawn Dickinson back, there'll be enough said about him. And then also CJ's banged up right now, but CJ will be back and do a good job for us.
I'm glad to hear you say running, because I remember at Media Days you said you're going to run the ball, to run the ball, to run. You wanted to get back to that running game.
Yeah, because I think that we play I know we play good defense. I know we have a really good defensive line with Bryce Cage and, Collis and the guys that's inside, and you got Marcellus. We got a really good group of guys on defense that can stop the run. Then when you go outside, you have Lindsay and Blake really at the corners position that's doing a really good job.
You're no stranger to football, but being in your second year at head coach, we were talking about it just a few moments ago, you're not only the head football coach of a team, you're the head football coach of a brand. Grambling is a national brand. What has that been like in the adjustments that you have to make doing that, knowing what the Grambling name means, not only in Louisiana, but nationwide?
Well, like I said, I had to be, my awareness is up. It'd be how we going to function here, how we going to get through our problems that we do have, and knowing that it's a national brand and how we're going to use that national brand. And then when you put the G on your helmet, you're everybody's Super Bowl. So we had to get through all of that. And we said as a team that we're going to give everybody their Super Bowl. We know how to function right now. We know how to operate together because we come from two different worlds. I left this world and went to another world and had to come back to this world. So I had to figure out and remember how we function in this world and how we were successful, and I figured it out.
We look forward to seeing you on Game Notes all season long. I appreciate your time, and best of luck.
Appreciate it,
Coach. Thank you. We appreciate Coach inviting us into his office to talk a little Grambling football. We look forward to talking to more coaches throughout the season. Scott, as you take a look at the schedule for Grambling, Ohio State, whoa, how about that when you get past Langston going to Ohio State? But look at Prairie View. They got to go to Vegas to play that game. Then you go to New Orleans. They got another game in Atlanta. That goes back to being the coach of a brand. Yeah. Whether it's the band, the football team, everything that comes with a G, that's what it takes when you're the head coach of a brand.
Absolutely, and I think it's important that Coach Joseph understands that, which he does. And I love the hire. When Grambling made this hire, I'm a little bit biased. I grew up watching Mickey Joseph sport that number 2 for my Huskers and playing option quarterback. But I think Mickey Joseph, as the head coach of this program, is the right guy for the job because he's one of the best recruiters in college football. You saw the kind of guys he recruited at LSU when he was there. But kids trusted him. They believed him. They want to play hard to not let Mickey Joseph down. So I think Mickey Joseph's the right guy to lead that brand and that G on the helmet.
Have an opportunity to coach, a group of young men that you never have coach is always exciting. This is a new coaching staff for me with some of the guys I have an opportunity to work with. So I think all those things, and then having an opportunity to get back in Cowboy Stadium, which is haven't been there in a while, but kind of grew up in that stadium. My dad coached and played at McNeese, and it's the only thing I really knew for most of my life was McNeese football, and to get back in that hole in Cowboy Stadium and to be there again is really exciting for me.
Yeah, Scott, what's old is new again because Matt Viator is back. He's been consulting with Napier when Billy Napier was at Louisiana before he went to Florida, took some time off. Now he's back as the head coach of McNeese. And look at what he did when he was with the Cowboys. His 78 wins, tied for a school record, no losing seasons, 4 Southland Conference titles. He had 3 wins against FBS teams and 5 playoff appearances. When A.D. Heath Schroyer was out looking for a new football coach, he said, here's what I was asking myself. Where can I find a coach to meet the standard that we have set here at McNeese? And then here's what he decided. Let's go out and hire the coach that set the standard. Yeah. And they did, and Matt Viator is now back in McNeese.
Yeah, and when you can bring back that standard and somebody who's familiar with it, it's special because they know what every place has a different feel to it. What do I need to instill? Some places are going to be a pass-happy place. Some people are going to be a smash-mouth place. When you see that cowboy on the side of that helmet, that logo, to me, McNeese football is hard, blue-collar, run the ball down your throat, play good run defense, and I think that's the style that every head coach, every team is going to take on the personality of their head coach, and I think that's the style you're going to see out of this team.
Last 3 seasons, 4-7, 1-10, and then 6-6. So Matt Viator comes in, and we'll take a look at the expectations for the Cowboys in the Southland Conference now that he is back. Incarnate Word, remember, they're the teams that won it a year ago. They're picked to win it again. There's McNeese right there in the middle of the pack, but Viator has a proven record of success there in Lake Charles, as we talked about. Their last playoff appearance in the Southland Conference title was back in 2015 under Matt Viator. They also have their new quarterback, Jake Strong, just this week was named starter for the Cowboys. And Scott, he's one that came from Texas Tech. He's a transfer that comes in to Lake Charles, but he brings some FBS experience now to the FCS level at McNeese.
And that always helps. How many times have we talked when we preview teams about all the transfer portal guys? It's just the nature of college football. But I think what it does is it gives you those opportunities to go out and get players from places like Texas Tech. Not everybody, if there's one position, not everybody can play. You don't want to be the second or third quarterback on the depth chart everywhere. So you bring in a guy like that, you allow him to see if he can to galvanize the group, and you see who elevates the play around you. And then you kind of decide what are his strengths, what are his weaknesses, and what type of offense do we need to run around this guy.
It's tough to find a school right now that's riding a wave of momentum bigger than what McNeese is riding in Lake Charles. In the last 2 years, athletic director Heath Schroyer hired Will Wade as a basketball coach. He only took the team to back-to-back conference tournaments and went to the NCAA tournament. Then he got Ayla Gazzardo to lead the Lady Cowboys basketball team. All she did was win the Southland Conference over in Hammond. He hires Matt Viator to come back. He was just named to the governor's NIL committee here in the state of Louisiana. And 1 week before fall camp start over in Lake Charles, he had this announcement for the Cowboys.
As a result of this historic gift, a gift of $5 million that spans 10 years, starting today, Pope Nation, Cowboys Stadium is now Navarre Stadium.
That's right, you heard it, a $5 million gift to McNeese. It's the largest in school history. It's the largest in Southland Conference history. So McNeese now enters the season, Scott, with their first game against Louisiana Christian at Navarre Stadium. So a lot of excitement there building to Matt Viator's first season on his return. Louisiana Christian at home. They'll be down the road in Lafayette at Louisiana, where Matt was doing some consulting work, and you see their schedule. But certainly one of those teams you have to keep an eye on because Matt Viator has the experience.
There's no doubt about it. I think when you hire that coach, you hire the right guy to run your team. It puts everybody else on notice. Everybody else who's getting those schedules in the offseason saying, this team is not going to be an easy out. We need to make sure we're on our P's and Q's. We have our T's crossed and our I's dotted when we play this team because we have a guy who knows what success looks like at McNeese.
As we told you at the top of the program, there were 2 new head coaches. That's one of them. The second one, he's down in Thibodaux, the new head coach for the Nicholls Colonels.
I learned a lot from Coach Rebo, great friend, great mentor. And we're fortunate to be in a great situation in Thibodaux. The progress that we made as a program in 10 years, I would put up against anybody in FCS football. And our job is to make the same amount of progress in the next 10 years.
So Tommy Rybacki takes over for Tim Rebo, and here's what he did down at Nicholls. Look at his 57 wins, his #1 all-time at Nicholls, a very good winning percentage in the Southland Conference. 5 straight winning seasons for the Colonels. And Scott, look at the bottom. 2018, 2019, and as recently as 2023, Nicholls taking home the Southland Conference Championship. What we should know for Tommy Rybacki, as he mentioned, wanting to live up to Rebo, he was on his staff. He's been his defensive coordinator. Now, he has hired a new defensive coordinator, but he's familiar with the city. He's familiar with the students, the program. Now he takes over to make it his own, coming from a very good program under Rebo.
And the good thing is, the standard, he knows what the standard is. He knows exactly, a coach who goes out the door who's had this much success, he knows what a daily schedule looks like, what works and what doesn't work. And I think that's really going to help his team. There's not going to be a whole lot of change. He'll tweak things here or there, things that he wants to do, but there's going to be consistency. And I think consistency is the key to winning long-term in college football.
And you would like this. Their defense was stout. You being a defensive guy, they allowed an FCS low 6 rushing touchdowns 1 year ago. So people were not getting things done on the ground against Nicholls. They only gave up 85 yards a game. Rashid Lovelace, there's a name you need to remember. A junior defensive lineman. He's on the Buchanan Award list for National Defensive Player of the Year. He's a preseason All-American. He takes up a lot of space. But if you can win on defense, as we talked about earlier, start developing now on the offensive side.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing you talk about the defense, any good defense usually has a really good defensive lineman. They cause disruption. They make linebacker play a lot easier, and they make covering guys a lot easier. So, yeah, if you can keep that defense going and then flip it over to the offense and get the offense to play complementary football, this team's going to be dangerous.
Let's take a look at the preseason expectations for the Colonels from Nicholls and where they stand right there, 5th. So just ahead of McNeese. We talked about Southeastern Louisiana coming up, Nicholls, and we're going to get to Northwestern State in just a moment. But there's those 4 schools here all bunched up there, but it's Nicholls leading the charge in terms of 5th place preseason prediction. And again, with a team that understands winning because it was 2 years ago under Coach Rebo when they won the championship. Also for Nicholls, of note, the college football season, when it starts, guess where it starts? Yes, there's one game overseas, but in the United States, in Thibodaux, with Nicholls against the defending champ. Coach, your thoughts?
First, what a great opportunity for our program and our community to be on that stage. I mean, it really is an excellent opportunity and one that everybody in the area is very excited about. Football is very important in South Louisiana. I think everybody knows that. So for us to open the college football season there, I think really showcases that. And then for us, man, we get to open up with the champs, and that's a big-time challenge for us, and who would want it any other way? I mean, that's a great program. Incarnate Word has done a great job in the last 4 years. They've been plays away from playing for a national championship, and that's the outlook we have for our program. And so to get that measuring game right out the bat will be big for us.
Yeah, how about that? Week 0, ESPN2, nationally televised out of the Southland Conference against the defending champs in Incarnate Ward in a game that we played down in Thibodaux. That'll be very exciting for your first-year head coach, first game, nationally televised. You're the first game in the country.
Yeah.
Let's kick off this season down with the Colonels.
Yeah, that's cool. It's a really easy sell for being a head coach and telling your team all the eyes you want to watch you play football, it's going to be on you. Everybody's waiting for the football season to kick off. You have your opportunity on ESPN for the nation to watch you play football. It's not very hard to get your team motivated knowing that's in store.
All right, well, let's stay in the South End Conference, and we'll go up to Natchitoches, where the Demons from Northwestern State are playing ball. You might think it's hard to be confident for a team that hasn't won a game in over 2 years, but in the second year under Blaine McCorkle, confidence is what they have up there with the Demons at Northwestern State. He likes the direction that this team is headed in 2025.
You know, there were times last year, if I'm very honest, you would walk in that team meeting room and it was hard to like some guys in the room, right? You know, and now I've got a group of guys that every day I walk in the room and they're hard not to love. You know, we don't hide from the fact that we're going into this season with the longest losing streak in the country. We're not scared to say that. We know where we are and we know where we have to go. And to watch the drive and these guys' work ethic every day is really inspiring for me. And they get me out of bed in the morning.
Well, we just referenced it a moment ago. When you look at the predicted order of finish there, you see Northwestern State towards the bottom, just above UT Rio Grande Valley. Look, we don't have to go over the whole story. You might remember the tragedy. A player was shot and killed on campus a few years ago. They played one more game. The focus wasn't there. The tragedy for the players, the coaches, they canceled that season. Then the team went winless last year. So we talk about the lack of success, if you will. But then again, you talk about his confidence. He says mentally this year, they're in a much better state in terms of going into a season, coming off of what had happened. They've put that behind them, and now moving forward, the kids are coming back, and he likes where they are headed.
Yeah, and you look at a tragedy like the kids aren't robots. They have human emotions. It takes a while to overcome something like that. So it's been a couple years, but at the same time, this roster is a really young roster. They have a ton of kids from the state of Louisiana, 82% of the kids from the state of Louisiana. I think that makes it a special thing. And when you have a young roster like this, it means you have a hungry roster. You have a lot of young guys who are trying to prove themselves, trying to prove to everybody that they can play at this level of football. So a young roster is not necessarily a bad thing. It can be a dangerous thing sometimes.
Yeah, the guys have the experience. They might not have the wins from a year ago, but the experience that's coming back, the 82% from the state of Louisiana, and the players that they are bringing in is all why McCorkle thinks this team is destined for success this season. Here's his comments about helping build this roster.
I think we've done a really good job bringing in the right guys. These guys to my right and left are both transfers we brought in a year ago, Caleb from La Tech and Cam from UL. And I think that that's one thing I'm really proud of our staff is we've identified the right guys in the portal to bring in. We're not going to make a living in the portal, but we're bringing in guys that are running to something and not from something. And I think that's really helped our culture.
I love that comment. They're not running from something, they're running to something. They're coming to Northwestern State to contribute and see what they can build there. They will open up the season on a Thursday night against Alcorn State before they go on the road back-to-back, Minnesota and Cincinnati. Then they'll play at Prairieville. So 3 in a row leading up to that bye week, and then we'll get into the home schedule and we can see what they'll do. Yes, they might have the youngest roster in all of SCS, but they're ready to compete, and we look forward to seeing the Demons crack that win column for the first time in a couple of seasons. Can't wait to see which week that is for the Demons there in Natchitoches. And then we wrap up our conversation from the South End Conference going to Hammond and the Lions under head coach Frank Selfo in his 8th season as he leads the Southeastern Lions over there. And yes, you look at the predictions for what they have. They are predicted 3rd, right behind Incarnate Word and Stephen F. Austin. Now, Southeastern last year lost 2 games by 3 points. One was to Tarleton, and in terms of SCS teams, by 3 points, and one was to a ranked Incarnate Word team who wound up winning the conference, beat Southeastern by 3, but the Lions did not make it into the playoffs with those losses, something he's ready to change this season.
We preach all the time, more games are lost than won, right? And the 2 games that we lost by 3, Tarleton and UIW, both of them are national seeds. And that's why we felt like we had the opportunity to go to the playoffs, because when you lose to teams like that, if they're that good and they give them a national seed, then that reflects well on us. And I think sometimes we do get overlooked. It is about details. It's about, like I said, losing. There's more games lost than won, and we've got to take care of those things. And you got to tie those loose ends up, and you can't go back. There's no do-overs. And that's what we're looking to do as far as going forward from that standpoint.
There might not be any do-overs from last season, but this young man is getting a do-over. Ian Connerly Goodley, he's a senior defensive back who had an outstanding season for the Lions 2 years ago. Then he tested the transfer portal, stepped up. Sun Belt Conference went to Troy. But on bye weeks, he kept going back to Hammond. He wanted to see the Lions play. He's a Covington young man. Came back. Well, Scott, he is back at Southeastern for one more go. He left Troy to come back. You see, he's already all South End Conference first team. That's a defensive leader that Frank Selfo's happy to have back on campus.
Yeah, preseason All-American. If there's one position, we talked about the defensive lineman changing the way you play defense football. A special defensive back will do the same thing. If you remember back to the Deion Sanders days, you basically say, we don't have to worry about that side of the field, wherever he's lined up. So he has that type of impact on their defense. He's a special player.
They've got a quarterback battle. You have a transfer in from Sacramento State, Carson Camp. Kyle Lowe is a transfer in from Georgia State. Frank Selfo's not afraid to use two quarterbacks, and it's not you get a series and you get a series. It might just be, hey, it's 3rd and 8. I need you to go for that kind of package. So he'll use two quarterbacks. And an interesting note, 18 players for the Lions have 4 years of experience. 6 players have 6 years of experience. So guys who had the opportunity maybe to leave, but have decided not to because they want to make that 4th playoff run in 6 years for the Lions.
Yeah, I think that's going to pay dividends. Having that experience, having guys who have been around the campus for that many years, gone through that many practices, sat in that many meeting rooms, it allows you to have good leadership is what it does. And we talk about constantly about developing culture. It allows you to have guys who can show the younger guys the way and the way it's done there.
You'll see their big games going to be at Incarnate Ward when it comes to the conference play, but look at how they start. On the road at Louisiana Tech, and then they end the month of September at LSU before they get to Texas, Rio Grande Valley, and start conference play. But again, 2 Louisiana tests for the Lions on the road at Louisiana Tech and Ruston, and then in week 4 they will make their way over to Baton Rouge and take on the Tigers from LSU. Can't believe 60 minutes is over, but it is for now. But we're just getting started on what it's going to be like all season long on Game Notes. You ready? You're a player. You ready to get going for game time?
I'm ready. Fall can't get here fast enough. I can't wait to watch these young men play, watch these coaches put together the programs. A lot of hard work. There's a lot of hours put in from January through now, from the end of last season. They all want it to pay off.
And as you can see, we have a lot of stories to tell, and we can't wait to do it here with you. I even made that catch right there on that fumble. Can't wait to do it with you here on Game Notes. We thank you for joining us for our debut and the season preview of Game Notes, and we'll see you next week when we start getting into the action. For my partner, Scott Shanley, I'm Victor Howell. Thanks for watching us. It's game time. Get off the bench with us here on Game Notes. Major production funding for Game Notes is provided by Southern University and A&M College and the Hargrove Foundation, with additional support from Lafayette Travel, the LSU Alumni Association, and the Cook Hotel and Conference Center at LSU, Louisiana Tech University, Natchitoches Regional Medical Center, Red Stick Sports, the U.S. Army Baton Rouge Recruiting Battalion, the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, and viewers like you. Thank you.